All right. Good morning, or afternoon, wherever you may be.
Right on.
Justin, what's up, man? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How about yourself, Travis?
Oh, no complaints, man. No complaints at all. First off, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. We're excited to share some good information with you guys today. My name's Travis Autumn. I'm a senior veteran coach here at VA Claims Insider. Served in the United States Army for 8 years. Was a military police officer, so hopefully nobody holds it against me here today in our live. But I originally came to VACI as a veteran myself, right? I was struggling with the VA system. I was having a hard time getting disability service connected. Didn't really know what to do, right? And I came here and shout out to my coach. I had actually our president of our organization, Terrell Morrell, as my coach, and got my increases going, and I just loved what we did here as an organization, and I loved what we stood for. I came over here, and I love working with our veterans every day. I love working with our other team members every day too.
I didn't serve myself. The reason I work at VACI is really simple reason. I just want to help people, right? And I know that working here and through the lives that we've changed, it's fantastic. You get to hear from all people from all walks of life. You can see just in the chat how many different individuals are here to learn, to get educated, to improve their lives, to get some of these truths recognized. And that's what we're here to do at VACI, is to hear you out, be there with you through this process, right? The topic of conversation is going to be how VA presumptives work, right? How do presumptive claims work?
So, presumptive condition, I guess in the simplest terms, is basically a disability that the VA understands that you probably will have,
right?
Depending on the location, or your exposures that you had in the military service, right? So, and basically already presumes that you will at some point have this condition. One of the biggest things that I will say, and I'll kind of lead with this, is there is an amazing blog post that we do have on our website. Make sure you check that out. A lot of this information that we're actually going off from today is from that site, along with our own experiences. There's different categories for, I guess, who qualifies for a presumptive condition, right? So former POWs are in that list. Atomic veterans exposed to ionizing radiation. So, you could have participated in some sort of atmospheric nuclear testing, right? Depending on where you were. Or a lot of the long timers, right? So like if you were, occupied or prisoners of war in Hiroshima or Nagasaki, right? Those things as well, kind of play into that. But one of the most interesting things that I found, Justin, was that actually, if you were at a diffusion plant, in Kentucky, Portsmouth, right, Ohio, Tennessee, before 1992, a lot of those also qualify for that ionizing radiation kind of presumptive list.
That's right.
Or even before 1974 up in Alaska, which is kind of interesting to me, because a lot of times when you're thinking about that ionizing radiation, you're thinking overseas, right? You're thinking, early wars, and you're not really thinking about, hey, what is it back home that could be leading to that as well.
A lot of these don't really have harsh time constraints.
And one of the big things too, and a lot of people do know about it, but I always like to bring it up, is the Camp Lejeune water issues, right? So the Camp Lejeune water issues were huge, and there was a lot of health effects that were caused by that water contamination.
And just to kind of touch upon some of the basics that you need for presumptive conditions, right? The first thing you need is your DD-214 that will reflect the areas that you have been in. And if you qualify for being in certain areas for some of these presumptives, your DD-214 should reflect that, right? And number two, if you are diagnosed for certain conditions that are part of the presumptives related to, let's say, Camp Lejeune or Agent Orange, any kind of burn pit exposure, right? Gulf War syndrome. There's a whole lot of presumptives nowadays, and I think they're just going to be more going down the line, just like you were mentioning with the PACT Act.
In the last 2 years, we've seen them add more conditions, some onto the Agent Orange exposure, some onto the Gulf War presumptives. A lot of that burn pit stuff is becoming huge. So, one of the biggest things that I kind of always recommend too is, hey, get on those registry lists, right?
Yes.
So get with the VA, get registered as a veteran who served in one of those areas, because not only they're going to provide you with more information about types of conditions that you're going to be suffering from, or possibly that, but also, they're able to run different tests on you as well to see if, hey, maybe you do have this going on because of that area that you had served.
It's good to just get these things recognized, just even for your own personal health, right?
Start with the earliest one, right? The Gulf War presumptives.
So there's 3 categories. There's category 1, the Gulf War symptom presumptives that are Gulf War, like basically they've recognized that certain Gulf War veterans began developing random, unconnected chronic symptoms that do not compromise a single identifiable diagnosis. And that's how Gulf War syndrome came about. Some common signs and symptoms of Gulf War syndrome include, fatigue, certain skin conditions, if you get chronic headaches, muscle pains, joint pains, if you're dealing with any neurological symptoms, mental health symptoms. You can see that this covers a lot under the Gulf War syndrome itself, right? And the list goes on. There's, even respiratory syndromes, gastrointestinal symptoms, menstrual disorders, and even abnormal weight loss, right? So if you're suffering from any of these things, I would say the first thing you want to do is definitely get in contact with your doctor, get checked out for these things. The second category are multi-symptom illnesses, right? So these are conditions that manifest multiple symptoms, and for multi-symptom illnesses, they as long as they're chronic, meaning they're happening all the time, and they manifest themselves to at least a 10% VA rating criteria. If you get these claims in before December 31st, 2026, that's what you want to be working on, or at least get the diagnosis for, right? So you can start that process. And just to touch upon the third category, that would be infectious diseases, right? So some of those conditions that qualify for Gulf War under infectious diseases, could be brucellosis, malaria, shingles and tuberculosis are just a few to mention.
Even though you may not have served in Iraq or directly on the ground in Iraq, it also covers, the Persian Gulf. It covers the airspace above these areas and locations as well. So yeah, if you were serving anywhere in that kind of that Southwestern Asia area, you definitely probably qualify for some of these presumptive conditions.
So if you served in Southwest Asia or Afghanistan after September 19, 2001, that's what you're looking for in terms of your time frame of where you were at.
So yeah, it's one of those. It's probably the longest presumptive time frame that currently is out there, and it brings us to kind of one of the big ones, and kind of one that I would say I deal with most often is the Agent Orange exposure, right? So Agent Orange basically was used in Vietnam, Korea during the 60s and the 70s.
As a herbicide, correct? Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And any length of service over there kind of qualifies you for it. There's also, the blue water and the brown water type stuff too for the intercoastal areas. Any veteran who served in Vietnam between 62 and basically 75 are presumed to have that Agent Orange exposure. It'll say directly on your DD-214 where you were, right? And it'll kind of, give that information of, hey, yeah, I was here. And there's currently 40 plus different conditions coming underneath, the Agent Orange aspect too. Chloral acne, right? So kind of skin conditions there, type 2 diabetes, Hodgkin's disease, right? Ischemic heart conditions. But some of these conditions, may not have manifested until recently, right? And they can still be looked at for a presumptive type connection there. Let's go ahead and touch on a little bit of that PACT Act stuff. one of the big things is expanding the healthcare for specific categories of toxic exposed veterans and veterans supporting certain overseas contingency operations, right? So Operation Enduring Freedom, Freedom Sentinel, Iraqi Freedom, right? New Dawn, kind of a lot of those operations and what kind of exposures that you had during that time period is what they're going to be looking at. They're also going to expand the presumptive of the specific toxin exposures for members who served on or after August 2nd of 1990 in locations like Bahrain, Iraq, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Somalia. And then they're going to be looking at basically after September 11th, 2001 in Afghanistan, Djibouti, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, right? So a bunch of other countries are going to be added to this new presumptive area.
And going off of that as well, they're going to expand presumptions related to Agent Orange exposure by including Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Guam, American Samoa, and the Johnston Atoll as locations for Agent Orange exposure.
One of the other cool things too is, they're going to be opening up that kind of radiation exposure, right? To even veterans who participated in cleanup activities, that may have been, in those nuclear response zones, Spain, Greenland, things like that as well. If you guys do have any questions at all, we are here. You can definitely sign up and get started for free at the link that's on the screen right now. You can also set up a discovery call to talk with one of our team members and kind of just get more information about the program as well. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll talk soon.